Mercedes' new upgrades seem to have impressed just about everyone in the paddock. We say just about because there are still important people who either act or genuinely don't care about how the Silver Arrows perform. You'd think it would be one of the lower placed cars on the grid, but the recent shots fired towards Mercedes come from a very formidable source, which is sure to raise some eyebrows on the paddock. Who are they coming from, and could there be something more in play here? Stick around to find out. Mercedes, once a towering colossus in the sport, found themselves enjoying the two-car podium finish in Catalonia. Even though the achievement was noteworthy, the conspicuous 24-second difference between them and the triumphant Verstappen was still not really a letdown, but more so a show of how far ahead Red Bull is and how much it'll take to catch up to them. This repetitious theme, echoing from one race to the next, chronicles a clear picture of Red Bull's dominance, with the rest lagging noticeably behind. Moreover, even as the Spanish Grand Prix marked the start of a significant evolution for the steadfast German team, caution about the vehicle improvements ruled in the interviews given by the team members after the race. The W14B, which now has new side pods and overhauled front suspension and floor, demonstrated its potential post-transformation. The determination in the Mercedes team was palpable. They were geared up to dig deep and reduce the gap with Red Bull. Yet, team principal Toto Wolff displayed wisdom by keeping his team's feet on the ground. He highlighted the importance for Mercedes' technicians and engineers to pause, fully understand the recent modifications to their race car before diving into additional advancements. In an interview, Wolff openly talked about how complex the ambitious strategy to augment the car's performance is. He explained how the quickened pace of integrating improvements, though stimulating, resulted in a lot of questions requiring solutions. Wolff pointed out a critical caveat. The swift adoption of enhancements didn't provide the team with enough time to detail the changes thoroughly, which is standard practice with regular updates. Consequently, a comprehensive review was necessitated before focusing on the next set of improvements. We just need to continue to grind away because it's not so much about how quick it is, it's about how good our understanding is, he said. We've been rushing things over the last 2 months, and that worried us because it was a little bit circumventing the process, but so far it has paid off. Wolff further emphasized the need for his team to avoid a false sense of security, cautioning Mercedes not to interpret the encouraging results at the Spanish Grand Prix as a definitive sign that they were on a successful path to close the gap with Red Bull. Drawing from historical precedents, he voiced his belief that the current situation very much differs from the conditions a year ago. At that time, a projected surge in speed after the Spanish Grand Prix didn't come to fruition in subsequent races due to Mercedes' inability to perform as expected. However, this time, Wolff is maintaining a careful balance so as not to prematurely surrender to an optimistic outlook. Unlike Wolff, there is someone out there who doesn't believe that Mercedes is making the quick enough progress. That's why, despite Mercedes' strong performance in Barcelona, Red Bull's team principal Christian Horner recommends a broader perspective. In his view, Mercedes made such extensive modifications to their car that it's likely consumed a significant portion of their budget. Consequently, this could imply they have limited resources remaining for further enhancements for the remaining races this year. Horner also highlights that Hamilton's finish in Barcelona echoed the situation when Fernando Alonso was 26 seconds behind the runner-up Sergio Perez in Bahrain. Therefore, Horner is skeptical about Mercedes accelerating their catch-up pace with the other teams. When questioned by motorsport.com regarding the extent of actual progress Mercedes had achieved, Horner stated, "For sure they've made a step, but they've introduced pretty much a B-spec car, so they must have used a significant proportion of their development budget on that. And I think that when I look at the gap at the end of the race, it's very similar to where it was in Bahrain. All that is happening is the running order behind us seems to vary from race to race. You know, Fernando last week in Monaco, Mercedes this weekend. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out over the next few races." Horner says that his team deserves praise for the way that it had been able to maintain its advantage in F1 despite having made only small improvements to its RB19 Challenger. "The team are just doing an incredible job, being extremely efficient," said Horner. "You can see we've very subtly developed the car since Bahrain, while we've seen others bringing significant upgrades now. The margin has remained pretty much the same from where it was in Bahrain, so that's hugely encouraging to everybody in Milton Keynes that is doing an outstanding job at the moment." Furthermore, even though Mercedes jumped over Aston Martin into second place in the constructors' standings in the Spanish Grand Prix, Horner still sees Aston Martin as Red Bull's biggest long-term threat. "We have a lot less wind tunnel time than you guys," he told Aston Martin ambassador Pedro de la Rosa when speaking to DAZN. "So we're having to be very selective about how we use that time and also thinking about next year as well, so it's about finding that balance." When you look at all that experience, you can see what Fernando's brought to Aston Martin, which is still a young team. There are lots of new guys there. They took a few guys from us. For us, I think the team that we're most keeping an eye on for the future is the Aston team, because you can see they have a strong energy. All this makes me wonder, could Christian Horner's remarks be strategic mind games designed to alleviate pressure on his team, particularly in light of Red Bull's impending cost cap penalty and Mercedes' strong performance in Barcelona? Perhaps, but several factors warrant closer examination. Verstappen is coming into his prime. Without his exceptional skill, the cars would likely be more evenly matched, including at the top tier. Currently, it's only the Red Bull vehicle with Max behind the wheel that is pulling away from the pack. The team's other car is not doing so. Plus, the efforts of the cost cap will only begin to manifest after several racing seasons. Reviewing qualifying results, one would see that all the cars are more competitive than in the prior season, indicating a gradual process of leveling the playing field. This is the only practical approach, as some teams enjoyed larger benefits than others when the cost cap was implemented. It naturally takes time to whittle down these advantages, and the cost cap has always been and continues to be the best mechanism to create a more balanced field. The shifting of personnel among teams would also contribute to this effect. However, when teams insist on garden leave for key personnel, the impacts may take longer to be discerned on the track. With each subsequent season, the impact of the cost cap regulation will become increasingly evident. Unless a team has both Verstappen and Newey on board, a combination that appears difficult to overcome when they collaborate effectively. Without a doubt, Mercedes has made significant strides in performance. In fact, in my opinion, they could be regarded as the second strongest team at the moment, and no one disputes that. However, it's also essential to acknowledge that Red Bull's current lead is so vast that, as Wolff stated, they likely won't be competitive against them in 2023. Hence, Mercedes' objective is to design a car capable of challenging the Austrian team in future seasons while maintaining a healthy lead over Ferrari and Aston Martin. Yet, this does not imply that Red Bull should rest on its laurels. Quite the opposite, in fact, as their cost cap and wind tunnel restrictions will likely pave the way for Mercedes and potentially even Ferrari and Aston Martin to close the gap and make this season as interesting as possible. Will they manage to do so? That's the tempting prospect we're eagerly anticipating, especially for those of us who are neutral fans of the sport. I would advise keeping a keen eye on this weekend's Grand Prix in Canada. This race should clarify whether Mercedes' stellar performance in Barcelona was an outlier or indicative of a genuine turnaround. It could also provide insights into Ferrari's current standing, given that the Scuderia's struggles have become somewhat routine. Furthermore, Aston Martin, the current surprise of the season, is also expected to perform, adding another layer of pressure on all teams trailing Red Bull. In a sense, this season is shaping up to be a survival of the fittest contest, where only the top team thrives and the rest are left behind. While the victor of the race and championship may not be that intriguing as Verstappen is already pulling ahead by a significant margin, what will be interesting is to see who clinches the second spot and who might pose a challenge to Red Bull in 2024. What are your thoughts about Mercedes? Is Horner right for not trusting their process that much, or is he only lowering the pressure the Silver Arrows put on Red Bull? Let us know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.